Okay, good. Well, let's get started. So thanks for joining this month's webinar. And what I'm doing today in 1 hour is I'm taking 2 days worth of information from my workshop and trying to compact it down. There's one is you will get information that you can take away, and the other, of course, it's a little teaser to hopefully to get more of you to consider coming to my workshop. But you will get information you can take away, and as always, this will be available on YouTube afterwards if you want to go view it again, so you don't have to madly take notes. And and you can share it if you'd like with other people. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Mark Mitchell, the author of Building Material Channel Marketing and co-author of the book How to Become a Building Industry Sales Rainmaker that I co-authored with Carlos Quintero from Sales Effectiveness. I also I send out a weekly newsletter, I write a blog, I do podcasts, workshops, and speak and consult and do research for companies. I live in Boulder, Colorado with my wife, and she's a psychologist, and I'm her only patient because that's a full-time job to keep me sane. So she tells me that she's got my meds good today, so I think we'll be fine. And I wanted to, of course, remind you that on October 26th and 27th this year in Boulder, I'm having my 2-day Whizard Summit for only 30 people, in which it will really help you to get a fresh perspective on how to improve your sales and marketing to architects, builders, contractors, distributors, and dealers. The discount deadlines are September 23rd. You can register for $16.95, and which is $200 off the regular registration, which starts on September 24th. There's only 12 spots left, and we only allow one company per category. So the categories that are already spoken for are residential windows and residential doors, insulated concrete forms, molding and millwork, tile underlayment, skylights, sealants and adhesives, fire and smoke containment, access control, residential and commercial tubs and showers, and commercial bathroom fixtures. So if your product isn't in one of those, we'd love to see you come to Boulder. And also, my friend the ShamWow guy here, just as an added incentive to get you to come and to stay here and listen to me babble on for an hour, we're going to have a special offer for you at the end of this broadcast. Everything that I do is about selling. I had a discussion a week ago with an ad agency, and they said, well, Mark, you're into sales and we're into marketing. And I'm kind of said to them, well, if marketing doesn't result in a sale, then what good is marketing? So focused on both marketing and sales, but when I look at marketing, I look at it as it better sell something or it's not worth anything. So everything you're going to hear me talk about today and any other time you hear me talk is very practical, not theoretical things that you should do. I always want people to walk away and say, this afternoon, I can change the way I'm doing something and be more successful. So I'd like your takeaway from this, as well as from if you come to my workshop, is that you're going to take away, I want each of you to take away several actionable strategies that you can use right now to grow your sales. So I want you to be thinking about that. You're going to see some big ideas, like maybe, you should change your website, and that's going to take 6 months, and I can't do anything until that's changed, and that's the wrong way to look at this. So I want you to ask yourself, what are you as an individual empowered to do? So if you're a territory sales manager in South Carolina, you really can't do much about your company's website. But and maybe if you have they go to a trade show, you probably can't really affect that. But what you can affect is how you interact yourself with your customers, and perhaps the feedback that you give to your management and to the marketing department. You also want to look and say, what things what are the realistic changes that your company can actually make? Some companies are particularly larger companies are a little bit hamstrung because they're so big and bureaucratic that they can't be quite so nimble. Also, when you're looking at changes that are outside of you personally, where do you think you're going to face resistance, and how can you overcome that? I also want you to think about separating small tactics from big goals. So a small tactic could be, I am going to change the way I prepare for a builder sales call. I'm going to change the way we design this year's Builder Show booth or our AIA show booth. Big goals, could be, we're going to make some major changes in how we approach something, or something like an entirely new website. So people sometimes get caught up in that, well, until they do this big thing, I really can't make any changes, and I always disagree with that. So here's the most common mistakes that I see companies who hire me make. And so if you're looking to solve a sales and marketing problem, or to grow your sales and marketing, these are some places for you to take a look at. And so the first one is, I quite frequently walk into a client who's having a problem. Their sales have plateaued, maybe they're even declining, or they're just not growing as fast as they should. And quite frequently, one of the first things they'll say is, but the competition has a new factory, but the competition lowered their prices, but the competition has a new website, or has a new ad campaign that they're spending a lot of money on. And so there's this focus on, oh, woe is me, what am I going to do? And I think that's a factor, but it's the wrong way to look at things. The second way is they look and say, they have a wrong view of the customer. So they'll talk about, oh, that buyer at Lowe's, or that big contractor, or that big builder, I just can't get through to them. That customer is too demanding. And so they're literally looking face on at an individual customer. So they're either seeing their competition, or they're looking face to face very closely at their customer as their problems. Where, how I always view things is, I try to get up to, 30,000 feet or higher and look down at the problem. And when you start to look down at the problem and get a big picture overview, you see the competition in a different light. You see your customers in a different light. You see opportunities and threats that you don't normally see. And that's probably why the graphics that I developed several years ago. And whenever I work with a company, my mind immediately draws out a graphic like this. And I'm kind of seeing, there they are. There's the goal on the right that they want to get to, and how do they have to get there, and who are the people that are going to either can influence the decision negatively or positively, or who are people that are probably the ultimate decision maker, and how do we reach those people and convince them that my client's product is a better choice for them. And this is the way I see the commercial building material market works, and this is the way I see the residential building material market work. And so back to that idea of looking down on the market. So this to me is a 30,000 foot view of the commercial or residential market. So, I encourage you, when you're faced with a problem, many times it's right in front of you and you can't get away from that. So if you can step back and try to get up above the problem and look at it from different angles, then what happens is, sure, the customer is of primary importance. I don't mean to act like they're unimportant. They're very important. But if you remember the really nasty looking customer guy, well, the minute you walk out of the office, this is what his life looks like. And it's not you, it's like the pressure that's on him, your customer. What is he worried about? Does he own a contracting firm and he's worried about a lawsuit? Is he an architect and he's concerned about, is he going to get a project done on time or on budget? Is he the big box buyer and he's just not making his numbers? And these are the sides of the customer many times that you don't see. And when you get up and you take that aerial view looking down, all of a sudden you can start to get where you have a different view of the customer. And then you can start to be much more effective when you're talking to the customer, because you're talking to him about, what's top of mind to him. It's probably not buying your product. That's what he has to do when he's sitting there face to face with you. But in the back of his mind, there's something else going on that's probably more important to him. And so when you get that big view, you're more likely to be able to see that. At the market, and most of you that are on here are experienced people, so you probably understand this, but I want to just reinforce that the market is controlled by the channel. The market is controlled by architects and contractors and builders. It's not controlled by home buyers. It's not controlled by building owners. It's really controlled by the channel. And the channel, for the most part, does not want better performing products. They don't really care that your product necessarily saves 10% more energy. They don't care that it's maybe fade resistance. Those are nice to have things, but it isn't going to be their building once it's built. What they do want is a solution to their problem. And the solution, yes, could be build me a more energy efficient building, but many times it's something else that's the problem. And your company, or doing business with your company, or using your products, ideally you want to find out what are those problems and look and say, how can I help solve that problem? They also want to know who they are dealing with. So if they've never heard of you before, you've got to get them comfortable with dealing with you. Even if they're not happy with their current supplier, they know just how bad it will be. And with a new supplier, they know there will be, there's always some problems in every business relationship, and they're not sure what the problems are going to be, and they really don't want to be surprised. And the other one that building material manufacturers frequently misunderstand is they always talk about price. Our price needs to be lower. The competition's lower. We lost the job because of price. And what builders and contractors, people, architects aren't really that involved as in pricing as much as the contractors and for example home builders. And those are two people who consistently say to me, Mark, make sure manufacturers understand I am not looking for the lowest price. I'm looking for a competitive price. I know that if I only look for the lowest price, that I will have other problems either with product quality or problems in doing business with the company. So I'm just looking for a competitive price. And so it's the ability to reinforce why you're worth the price that you want to charge, which has to do with making his customer's life easier. So a free process I see building material companies take is, we have a better product. If we'll simply communicate why it's better, customers will buy it. And what they find happens is they have a better product. They communicate the benefits, whether that's at a trade show, in an ad on their website, or in a sales call. But the customer doesn't see the benefit. He sees the benefit. Yes, you have that benefit, but I'm not sure that that benefit outweighs the cost and hassle to me of changing. For most of your customers, changing from what the solution they're normally used to using is more complex than just changing brands of toothpaste. Builders have a huge expense in terms of changing even from one shingle company to another. When you think about they have to change their computer programming, they may have to change the source of supply, the distributor dealer they buy from, they have to change their websites, they have to change their in-home selling graphics and so forth. There is a cost and hassle of change. So what I always want to look at, and I encourage you also, is to, yes, be excited about the benefits of your product and so forth, but also look and say, okay, what is the cost and hassle and risk to the customer of changing? And make sure that that you're outweighing what they're perceiving as those negatives. They aren't waking up every day saying, I'm looking for a better faucet. They're looking, saying, I would like to sell more homes at a higher profit margin. and where does the faucet fit into that? Or I'm having a problem with the reliability of my current faucet manufacturer. And so those are, weighing those back and forth. So keep that in mind. It's really easy to get real excited about the benefit and your new product or changes, but you need to look at the other side and make sure that you realize what you're walking into. So another thing to keep in mind is people are more, they will do more, customers, to avoid a potential loss than to potentially gain something. Okay, so if you say to them, you'll make an extra $1,000 or however much money this year, that's not as effective as realizing that they may have a bigger loss. Maybe they'll suffer a lawsuit if they use the wrong waterproofing barrier. Perhaps if they're a contractor, they'll be left behind if they don't keep up with the times. So always also look at what's the potential loss to the customer if they don't make this change, where too many people go in on the upside about you'll make more money. And that is not as strong a motivator as what they might risk by not changing. So you need to make the fear of not buying your product greater than the comfort of staying with the status quo. And I'm not talking about end of the world fear and that kind of stuff, but a degree of fear is very powerful. So it's almost like I would want to think before I called on a customer, what could happen to them if they don't make this change? What's the downside? Okay, and you better have an answer for that. And if you do, you'll be much more effective. Let's see. This is another interesting chart. If you haven't, if you've followed me for a while, I may have successfully wallpapered your office with posters I've mailed you. But this is a very interesting. This is another graphic that I developed several years ago with David Leslie from the Henry Company, and in which it's when you kind of take a look across the top. And you look and say there's an owner of a building, he deals with an architect, and then there's a general contractor, a subcontractor, a distributor, and a manufacturer. And you could map out, what's the order of if you have a residential new construction, it would be a different group of people, residential remodeling, different group of people. But we'll call this commercial new construction. So if you take a look across those, then you look at the red bar, and we kind of said, who has the most decision-making power? And so the owner could say, I want Kohler faucets in every one of my hotel rooms. Well, he probably has the power to make that happen. The architect, you can peg him. These are all theoretical. I would encourage you, if you're interested in this, draw your own out and peg it yourself. But, the architect will say has 80% decision-making power, maybe the general contractor 50, the subcontractor 30, the distributor 10, and finally the manufacturer maybe has 5% ability to influence that power over what faucet gets in that hotel. But then we turn around the other side and we have the black graph, and that's showing who has the most product knowledge. And chances are the owner of the hotel probably is not an expert in plumbing. Okay, he just has an opinion about something. The architect, because he has to be an expert in thousands of things, he probably also, maybe has 30% knowledge, and maybe the general contractor 40, and the sub probably has pretty good from experience, and then the distributor has less, and the manufacturer has probably the most. So it's an interesting thing to sit and say, based on who has the power and who has the knowledge, should I work to improve people's knowledge? Am I aiming at the right target? And then down at the bottom, you'll see across the bottom, it says primary motivation. And so in this case, we've defined the primary motivation, David and I did, of the owner. They want performance. So if I'm building a new hotel, I want the hotel to be built on time. I want the hotel to be full every night. I want the hotel to have minimum maintenance. I want the hotel that I can charge a premium rate. Maybe it saves energy. But the way we define primary motivation, the owner is he wants performance. As we're going to talk a little bit later, the primary motivation of the architect is his reputation. The general contractor is the time value of money. The subcontractors is labor cost, the distributors is profit margin, and the manufacturer tends to be economy of scale. So it's just an interesting exercise to go through when you think about the process. How does your product get to market, and who has the most knowledge, who has the most power, and what is their primary motivation? When you go through that, it really gives you, it gives you some fresh thinking as you're trying to solve a problem. Now, another thing I want you to, this is another simple goal. We're going to, if you come to the workshop, we're going to go into all of this in a lot more depth. But I hope you can take away some, as I said, some things you can just focus on. So a goal that I tell every one of the companies I work with is your goal should be to be one of the top 3 suppliers of your customers. Anytime I walk into an architect, a builder, a contractor, a lumber dealer, a big box buyer, I can ask them, who are your top 3 suppliers? And they can immediately name those 3 companies. And as we'll get into in a minute here, and I'll say, why is that? And they'll say customer service and knowledge. They will never say lowest price. And I will say to them, if somebody came in and was 10%, had a 10% lower price, would you give them the business? And they go, probably not. I am not I'm not looking for a replacement for any of these top 3 suppliers. So your goal should certainly be the #1 supplier in your category. So if you're a door company, and your customer has, can buy 3 different brands of doors, you should be the best brand. And then you should strive to be across every category your customers have, that you want to be one of those top 3. And that's defined by them. That's not defined by you. So it's literally, you want to be able to go in and say, or have somebody, probably not you, walk in and say, who are your top 3 suppliers? And you want them to mention your name. Now, one important way to make sure that you're on that path is to really understand what your customers say about you, say about your product, the whole category. Do we hate doors? Do we love doors? Are doors something we have to carry? Are doors a pain? We don't make any money on them? What do they think about it? And what do they think about your door company? And I always go in 100% of the time, a company tells me how their customers perceive them, and then when I go out and ride with salespeople and call on customers and interview them, I find out that isn't quite the truth. That there are some things that are both positive that they didn't realize, like, oh, that's important to them. That's one of the reasons they do business with us. We never thought about that. And then the other is, like, they almost every time they'll say, I would buy more products from this company if they would fix X. Whatever that is. And many times I look at it and say, that doesn't seem too difficult. And so really you want to know what your customers say about you in order to be one of those top 3 people. Now, one of the other things I find is once you find that out, then you run into this problem within your organization that are the silos of the different departments. And the bigger the company, the more these silos become a problem, where sales and marketing don't work together and customer service is viewed as an expense. The shipping, the finance department, I've had salespeople tell me they've worked for months to get a customer only to have the finance department refuse to sell them. And it's like, why weren't they talking together beforehand? Now, the smaller to medium-sized companies, it's much easier for them to keep these silos from getting built and to get everybody to work together. If you have these silos, it's really hard to become a top 3 supplier. Now, many big companies will be, Lowe's said Supplier of the Year, or D.R. Horton said Supplier of the Year. I think those things are fairly meaningless, because when I talk to other customers of theirs that are smaller, they don't get such high marks. Now, that may be that they just pay all their attention to the Lowe's buyer and they don't really care about a builder, or they only pay attention to the top 20 builders. I'm not sure, but all that creates opportunities for the small to medium company, and it's a challenge to the bigger companies. And I kind of sum this up. I would want every single employee that in any way touches a customer to have this little sign on their desk. And it's like, our sales and marketing should be this simple: what our customers should say. No one cares more about my success than your company's name. If you just have that in your mindset, you know, all your people, the people that drive the delivery trucks, the people that answer the phone, the people that are customer service, technical service people, if that's their mantra, you'll be a top 3 person pretty quickly. If you ever get a chance to go to Zappos, you see where Zappos, the shoe on the online retailer in Las Vegas, their headquarters, you know, their whole mantra to every single employee is to make our customers happy. It's not to sell more shoes. It's not to upsell. It's not to sell the second pair. It's to make people happy. You know, what would make this person happy? And they do it. So I see this as a simple way to pull a company together and really make a difference with the way your customers view you. Now, there's two big, you know, when I mentioned earlier, the top 3 suppliers always are rated highly because of customer service and knowledge. And so I call this like 2 big weapons, and I continue to find how building material companies do not appreciate how important these are. And many things that I will be sharing with you are where I see opportunities. I see the customers asking for something, but most of your competitors are not hearing them. So if all you do is change some of these things, you will outperform your competition without necessarily having to outspend them. So this first area is customer service, and a real simple symbol of this, and we go into this in a lot more depth in the workshop, but a real simple way is, you know, the best hotel used to be called a 5-star hotel, and then some person decided to build this outstanding hotel in the Middle East somewhere, and he really needed it to stand out. And so I don't know whether it was the owner, the architect, a PR person, a branding person, but they decided that they were going to just claim the spot of 7-star hotel. You know, nobody, they just called them that. There isn't any official person that rewards it to you. They just said, we're not 5, we're going to skip 6 and go right to 7. So when you put that out there, you have to kind of live up to that. Okay. Number 2, every single employee knows they work for a 7-star hotel. I'm sure, I've never stayed here, but I'm sure it's pretty impressive, from the maids to the person that checks you in to the person that parks your car, gets your bags, whatever it is. And so I don't care how good your customer service is today, even if you think it's 5-star, I would tell you to take it to the next level and drive your competition crazy. Now here's some things that people overlook. They think that customer service is answering the phone, being able to solve problems quickly. But some other steps to think about are with particularly your largest customers. You should sit down with them once a year, and it's not, hey, we're going to take you on the fishing trip or out for a big dinner, but sit down and say, we'd like to have a business meeting with you. We'd like to know, what are your plans? How was 2016? What are your plans for 2017? What do you see as your biggest challenges? What's your competition? And what could we do better to help you achieve those? Okay, that really says, gee, these people are committed to my success when they sit down and take some time and think about this. Okay, and then think about how once you understand their plans, how could you support them to achieve those? The next one is new customers. I find frequently, unless they're a really big new customer, they tend to be ignored until maybe all of a sudden someone says, gee, this person's big. And when you get a new customer, you got to realize there was probably maybe only one person or a few within the company that made the choice to switch. And there's a whole bunch of people behind them that wish that the switch hadn't changed. They're used to buying from Henry. You know, why aren't we buying from Henry anymore? You know, he's a good rep for this other company. He's taking care of me. And now we're going to Joe's company. I don't know Joe. So they're just waiting for you to screw up. Okay. So, see, I told you we shouldn't have gone to Joe. We should be back with Henry. So when you give a new customer, particularly the champion who led the charge to change for you, you give them extra attention. Okay. You know, like I bought my wife a Jeep about 6 months ago, and I'm one of these person that likes to walk in, sign a piece of paper, give me the keys, and I'm gone. No, I had to sit there for an hour while the president wanted to have a cup of coffee with me, the owner of the dealership. Then I had to meet 3 other people that handle, this guy's going to wash your car, this person does this, you know, and it was like, oh, okay. So they went out of their way to make me feel that I was a valued customer. Okay, so think about when you get a new customer, have some sort of onboarding process. You know, maybe you make a phone call. Here's the technical person. I want to introduce you to them on the phone. Here's your customer service. Here's shipping. Here's ordering. Whatever your people are. But think about having a formal onboarding process that makes the customer feel important, and also it makes it real easy for them to understand how to do business with your company. And it reinforces their decision so that when the naysayers within their company push back, they can say, nope, you're wrong. Joe's company is great. And so that's just another avenue of customer service I find companies frequently ignore, don't pay attention to. They're all important. The next area is knowledge. And this is an area that a couple of years ago I started to hear it from builders and contractors and architects. And they would literally say, you know, I also really value the company or the rep that has the most knowledge. The person, even if I'm not going to buy their product, that I would pick up the phone and talk to or go to their website because they have the best answers. Okay, so what you need to do is be the company or rep or that knows more about your customer's business. So if you're selling to architects, you need to understand how the architectural firm functions. What challenges are they facing today? You know, are the threat of design build, are they finding enough new architects? The way that they're tending to specialize. You really need to be a person that understands that. And then to understand each customer. I can't, builders, architects, contractors, dealers all tell me we need companies to come call on us. We need to be kept up to date on the advancements. We have questions. We want to learn about new products, new techniques, processes, what's happening with other companies. So we value our relationships, but half the time when I get an appointment from a rep that I've not met, I know that half the time that meeting is going to be worthless. It's going to be not worth my time at all because the rep has no idea how my company works, how architecture works, has no idea about my firm versus the others. They can't understand why somebody wouldn't at least go to their website before they made a call and understand, oh, you specialize in multifamily. You know, so just by taking those few steps, you put yourself ahead of the other people. And then the other is if you know more about your category. So an example is a builder told me about a lighting company that they buy from and said every year this lighting company comes in and puts on a whole presentation on trends in lighting. What's happening, what's changing, and so forth. And then they take and go through all their model homes, the builder's model homes, and said, you should make these changes, and we should make these changes in your optional kits. But they show them why. And so the builder told me, you know, whether or not I bought from this company, I feel much more knowledgeable about lighting in general, no matter what company I would deal with. But because of this company's proactive approach to helping us stay informed and be a better builder and the service that they give us, I can't imagine going to another lighting company. And you see that whether it's flooring, roofing, windows, it doesn't matter. The customer does not, you should know a lot more about your category of products than, and I'm saying the category, if I were selling vinyl siding, I would know everything about residential cladding, including brick and stone and faux stone and fiber cement. I would know more about that than any other vinyl siding salesperson or company. So when your marketing people and your agencies are doing programs, they understand the whole category that they're dealing with. So when you do just those few things, which to me seem common sense and simple, maybe they're harder than I think, because everybody else does, so many people do a mediocre job that it's really easy for you to stand out. So those are some, just some simple things that I think hopefully you've learned some things there that this afternoon you can literally go away and make a few changes and see a difference. And as I said, we'll go into all these in a lot more depth at the workshop. Now, I'm now going to walk through briefly each customer type that will spend more time once again at the workshop. So distributors, they are distributors, both 1 and 2 step, are becoming larger, and as they're becoming larger, they're becoming more sophisticated, and they're more data and marketing driven. And so now, rather than having, the old gray-haired guy that has been there forever, well, now you see young MBAs are making decisions based on what they see in a spreadsheet. Maybe they've never been on a job site. So there's changes in how they're viewing the market. And what I'm saying, particularly when you look at people like ABC and Ferguson, really big people, you see that they're trying to become more important to their customer than any individual manufacturer. And so if I were a manufacturer, I would be working hard to not relinquish my leverage or power with the end customer, that the end customer is still aware of me and still has a favorable view of me and desires me. And as long as that's in place, the distributor will carry you. When you let that lapse, then the distributor gets more power and more leverage, and whether that's pricing pressure on you, however that fits. So just think about with distributors. So your goals with a distributor are, first of all, if there's not demand for your product, the distributor is not going to create demand. So there needs to be some demand in the marketplace. So once there is, you need to get the distributor to stock you. You then want to become the preferred supplier in your category, the one they'd like to sell more of. And then you need to look beyond just I'm a good supplier, but say, how could we help them how could we help them be more successful than the distributor down the street who doesn't carry your product? So that's, in a nutshell, how I see distributors. Now we're going to jump to big boxes. And big boxes, I see that the primary motivation of the buyer or category manager is the CEO's goals. And every quarter I read the CEO's communication he sends to Wall Street and what they're going to change. And you can see and you can ask yourself, oh, they're now going to focus on turns. They're now going to focus on pro sales or do-it-yourself sales or appliance sales or whatever. And they're changing constantly as they're constantly fine-tuning. And so as a manufacturer who sells to a big box, I want to see I want to stay attuned of that and always be saying, I notice that you're going after more pro customers, or that's what CEO wants. We've got some ideas on how to help you do that in your category. That's the type of conversations that should be happening. I also say big boxes as an advertising medium, and the average big box store has 10,000 customers who walk into the store each week. And those are people with money in their pockets. Those are people that are either a small contractor or a do-it-yourselfer, a homeowner, but they have a home, they have money, they're doing one project, they're probably going to be thinking about the next project. And so when you look at 10,000 customers per week times 4,500 locations, that's, if I do my math right, that's 45 million qualified prospects per week. And that's like, wow, what would you pay in advertising to reach that many people? So many times I look at the value of lobbying to get an end cap display or some sort of more attention as valuable as buying an ad somewhere. So just a different view of a big box. Now, to succeed with the big box, I say the first thing is to grow a pair and have more confidence. I see too many companies are dependent on the big box's large volume, and they're afraid of the big box, so they just become order takers. So you should know more about your product category than the buyer, and I don't care what he says, you should know more about it. And you should be focused on not growing your sales as much as helping them grow the category. When you grow the category, your sales will naturally grow, and they will be more favorably disposed to, give you more SKUs and be more loyal to you at line review time. And you should constantly be bringing them ideas about how to grow the category. It doesn't matter whether they implement the idea or even like the idea. The idea is, once again, you want that big box buyer to go, gee, nobody cares more about my success than this company. They just are relentless bringing me ideas about how to help my category be more successful. So, that's how I see big boxes. Now, builders, as we talked about earlier, are focused on their profit margin. They have a challenge, and if they're selling a $400,000 house, they can't sell a $401,000 house. It's a $400,000 house, and the cost of labor and materials and land are going up, and they keep getting squeezed. So they got to look for every nickel in order to maintain a decent profit margin, which isn't that great. And many people will talk to me about, oh, Mark, the purchasing people, they only care about price. Purchasing is they're the decision makers. And I have found that, the construction there's at least 3 doors into a builder. There's construction management, there's purchasing, and there's sales and marketing. So if you have a product that will enable them to have fewer callbacks, enable them to get the home built quicker, those are things, or with less qualified labor, less experienced labor, those are things that construction manager wants to hear. Is sales and marketing. If you've got a product that will differentiate the home from the one down, their competition, because every builder can tell you, if I lose a sale, I lose it to one of these 2 builders. And so they're looking to say, how do I outperform those 2 people? So in an ideal world, you know who those 2 people are, so you're bringing the builder good advice. Now, you don't want to go around purchasing, but purchasing is also part of a team that's there to make the builder successful at the end of the year, more successful. And if they see that you could possibly help construction management, then they're going to say, let me set up a meeting. And the same with sales and marketing. So there's 3 doors into the builder, and many people only see 1. Now, with builders, the way to succeed, what they tell me, the builders tell me, is I want to deal with a knowledge leader, the person that knows more about lighting. I want to deal with a person who understands home building in general, what profit margins we have, what our challenges are today, what are we facing. I want them to know more about me as a builder and my position. If I'm a $400,000 builder, I really don't care about $2 million homes. If I may not care about super green homes. And then I expect you know more about your category of lighting, doors, or whatever it is than the other, we'll say, door companies that I talk to. And that's not just the reps. That they love it when they can go to a website that answers every door question you could think of. They also, once again, want a competitive, not the lowest price, and their local supplier is critical. So they're not looking to add new vendors. They don't want to buy direct. They buy through a local supplier, tends to be a lumber dealer, and they don't, if their favored lumber dealers don't carry your product, that's another barrier. So that's builders in a nutshell. Dealers, and this really is lumber dealers. When at the workshop we go into home improvement dealers and several other categories, but this we're just going to talk here in the interest of time about lumber dealers. And lumber dealers today, their primary motivation to me is they may disagree with me, but I call it survival. And they are facing relentless competition from bigger, more sophisticated companies. There's a number of them who are doing quite well. There's also ones who wake up every day and go, am I tired of fighting this fight? It's like, just because I got through 2016, what am I going to face next time? So how to succeed with the lumber dealer is to focus on the two-stepper that he buys from. If the two-stepper doesn't carry your product, he's probably not going to go somewhere else to get it. Most of them are focused more on pro sales than the consumer, but some, you'll find ones in certain markets that are also focused on both. And you think about it, they don't really want to sell your product. They want to get more, we'll say, builders to buy their packages from them. And so if you can help them get another builder or keep a builder loyal, that's the type of sales call and support they would like. So provide them with sales and marketing support. Another area is some of them are good business people. Some of them are not the best, and so to help them optimize their inventory. I walk through many lumber dealers, and there's all this inventory covered with dust and cobwebs that's been there for years. And the smart company goes in and helps them, not get in that situation. Maybe even helps them get rid of some things, and then be showing them new opportunities. Show them how to be competitive. I spoke last year at an LMC conference to 600 lumber dealers, and I felt like I was a rock star because they just like, wow, thank you. I get up every day and it's just this struggle, and you've given me some ideas about how I can move forward and be successful. And I didn't realize the competitive advantages that I have. And you, as somebody that if you sell to lumber dealers, you can provide some that same sort of support. Now we're going to jump over to contractors. And contractors, to me, if I had to pick one audience that's the most important in building materials, residential, commercial, I would say it's the contractor. And their primary motivation is labor costs. They can't make money on, tend to not be able to make money on materials. And so they make money on their labor. And so, this is how I view, if I looked at all the people in the building materials industry, who's the most willing to change something and who's the least willing? And I put the contractor as the least willing to change and the architect as the most willing to change. And the people in the middle, builders, dealers, distributors, big boxes, they tend to go along more with where the market is where their customers are going. So you've got the toughest person here with a contractor, and they are powerful influencers. I've seen many times when a building material company has sold a builder or an architect on their product only to have, or a facilities manager, only to have the contractor talk them out of it, and sometimes even just flat refuse to install it. Because of the labor shortages, good contractors already have a ton of work, and if something looks like it's going to be a pain, or there's going to be some risk to it, or maybe they'll lose money, they'll walk away. So they're extremely powerful influencers that we all need to keep in mind. So you want to keep in mind that contractors are installers at heart. You never find an accountant that became a roofer. You don't find a guy that owned a car dealership, who becomes a plumber. You don't find, a physicist who decides to become an electrician. Well, you might find that. But anyway, but they tend to be, it was either they started in their family business, or they started out as a very junior person and rose through the ranks. And there really is no cost of entry to be a contractor. So one day, just a very good roofer decided he's going to take his pickup truck and get a stack of bar napkins to write quotes on and go in the roofing business. So that's where their strength is. So there's many areas: human resources, banking, quoting, finance, all of those different areas of running a business, sales, marketing, pricing, that they're not the best at. And that's part of the reason they're resistant to change, because somehow they're successful and many times they're not really sure why. And so I don't want to upset things. And so you want to think about also showing them, that there's a risk of not changing. And then labor is a problem. So anything your product can do to help them with labor, is it easier or faster to install? And contractors, an area we go into a lot of depth about really understanding why they're resistant to change. And there's I've got like 24 different reasons they're resistant and how to overcome those. And now we'll jump over to architects, and my assistant's telling me we've got 11 minutes, so I'm going to push through here. I think we're going to be just fine. So architects' primary motivation is their reputation. And it may be that you may think about their reputation as they want to be known for designing that weird building that everybody notices. But I might even say 60%, maybe 70% of their concern about reputation is that they may screw up. That maybe that cool building becomes a joke. That cool building leaks. That cool building is uncomfortable to work in. that cool building had to be torn down. Maybe it gets so far as a lawsuit. Maybe it's just people go, well, I would never hire those people. So they're, once again, you know, very influenced by their concern about making a mistake, as opposed to necessarily doing something better. But I also find that the architects are the people that are most willing to change of anybody. An architect gets up every day and they want to build the next building better than the last one. And I know that there's people within today that just cut and paste specs, but that's because they don't see the importance of your product category if they're cutting and pasting specs there. They don't have time to consider everything. But their real goal is overall, every time, every building to be better than the last building. And so when you realize that, and you then can get them away from just cutting and pasting specs. The way to succeed with architects is I see too many people chasing projects. They get their Dodge report and they go, oh, there's a big project, let's go after that. Well, everybody else is going after that same project. And then every sale is a competitive situation where if you work on individual architects that specialize in a type of building that's a great fit for your product, you will start to convert customers. And then you will start to get repeat business that you didn't even have to go work for. Sure, some of, probably they're, smaller jobs than the roof of McCormick Place, but you will probably make a lot better profit margin. So focus on architects who are best for your product, educate them, make it easy for them to spec your product, and then make sure that if you have entirely new, if you're a new company or a new product or new idea, you got to make sure that the bidding subcontractors particularly are comfortable with your product. And then another area that I don't understand why building material companies continue to not pay enough attention to, and that is design build. And design build is all about the time value of money or speed, as opposed to the traditional way of building a building. Help us get in front of more architects, help us do whatever with architects. And I'm going, okay, what about design build contractors? And they're like, what are they? And so if you take a look at the design build process versus traditional architectural specification, gets a building built in maybe 25% less time. And when you think about the time value of money, if you're building a $10 million building, how much every day of interest payments and not having rental income coming or whatever your goals are, you can see the appeal of it. And then you take a look and you look at the growth of design build from 2085 to 2015. It is now exceeding traditional architectural specification. So architectural specification is in the declining graph in gray, and design build is in the blue graph. And I don't see enough building material companies seeing this as an opportunity, which says to me it's an opportunity because your competition is not paying attention to this. So how to succeed with design build is local reps and contractors are critical. They need to maintain relationships with the general contractors in each market. And ideally, the faster they can quote an installed cost of your product, the more likely they'll get the job. These people are looking, like I want to buy 40 roll-up doors, this dimension. What is that going to cost me installed? Thank you. I now have a number. If it looks like a fair number, I'm not calling 3 other people in to bid this. I don't have time. And so when you're on top of that, it can be a real, once again, competitive advantage. So I see design build as a growing opportunity with little competition. And then I think there's the final area is if you sell retrofit replacement, particularly in commercial, facilities managers could be a very important person for you. So for many companies, the ideal dream facilities manager is the person in charge of a university. So here's the University of Colorado here in Boulder, and he probably has 80 to 100 buildings, one person who makes decisions about what roof, what toilet, what flooring material goes in there because he's experienced. He wants things that are going to last for 100 years. He wants the best. And then you also have facilities managers now where you have investment firms big investment firms are now putting their money into rental housing. So I think 14 firms own 200,000 single-family homes. And so if there's a firm in out of New York that has in Columbus, Ohio, they bought 4,000 homes. There's a guy in Columbus, Ohio in charge of the maintenance of those 4,000 homes. Now, how often do those homes need things fixed when a tenant moves out? How often do they need to replace a roof? And I see this as another opportunity that building material companies are not recognizing. So to succeed with facilities manager, you want to understand the owner's goals, you want to educate them, and you want to get the contractor on board. Now, just going to briefly close up here a little bit about marketing. So I want you to think about, I see as old school marketing is when you do something like you create an ad or you go to a trade show, for example. And so let's say that you spend $3,000 to $10,000 to create it, and maybe that's so you're paying the first time. Then you have to pay for the media or the trade show space and the trip to Las Vegas. And so there's a second time you're paying, and an ad, let's say, runs for a magazine for a month, and it's done. You go to a trade show for 3 days and you spend, easily $30,000 to $500,000, and in 3 days you better have gotten your money's worth. Where, new school marketing is more simple. Like if you think about if you had a blog and you were developing content, well, you could spend $50 to $600 on some blog content, like how builders can be more successful, and the media costs you nothing. And trust me, that will stay there for years and get just as much traffic 3 years later as it got today. And so that's just kind of the mentality of thinking about new school marketing versus old school marketing. And I see too many companies say, well, Mark, when they give me more marketing money, I'll switch to this. And I'm like, well, what if you stopped doing some of the other stuff and you shifted those dollars into this new mentality? So your online presence is the most important sales and marketing tool you have today and you will in the future, and most building material companies are behind the curve. So I talked to architects, builders, contractors, and they all in the last 18 months have said something funny to me. That one guy summed it up. He's like, Mark, I work hard all day. I go home at night and I want to get in my underwear and my lazy boy chair, get my laptop, and I want to go back to doing business. And I don't understand why building material companies' websites don't operate as well as websites in my personal life. Why can I go on and design a Mercedes-Benz car and pick the colors, the interior, the wheels, all the accessories, and see a picture of it? It'll tell me what it's going to cost, my monthly payments, leasing versus buying, and it will tell me where I can test drive it. And why can't I go on to a building material company website and find out the same information? I'm trying to design a house. I'm trying to, figure out a job for next week. I don't want to wait till tomorrow and call the rep and wait for a call back, or try to go and get an email exchange going. I don't understand this. So I don't know what they do, but I consistently heard people say Marvin Windows. This was from Contractors and Builders, rated Marvin Windows website very highly. So I might poke around there and see what they're doing that is so good. So online, you want to have the most informative website of all your competition. You want to be the easiest to use. So you want that builder, for example, or architect to go, oh, I got a window question, I'm going to Marvin. Even if he's not going to buy Marvin, I would want him to come to me. So it's just a little different mindset and requires a continual investment in it, but it's mainly an investment in content and so forth than it is maybe in creativity. The other one is more of your customers today are finding you first before you're finding them, and they're finding you online. So if they come to your website, your new website needs to have all kinds of calls to action. So there's this term marketing automation that's linked with CRM, but when somebody comes to a website, there should be something on there saying, 5 ways a builder, can save money, whatever it is, click here. And now you know who came to your website. You can start a relationship and get them warmed up before the salesperson calls. So this is something that we're also behind the curve in building materials. 2 threats that I want to share with you and we'll talk about. One is the threat of disruption. So when you've got Elon Musk coming into the generator business, and you've got You've got a shower company raising $3.1 million on Kickstarter that is not a shower company you've ever heard of. When you've got Nest upending the thermostat market, there's all kinds of disruption that is going to be a threat to you. And so there's product disruption, distribution disruption, installation disruption, information disruption. So who will disrupt you, and how can you be a disruptor? So I challenge you to think about that. And then another threat, and I'm sorry I'm going to be just a couple minutes over here, I hope you can stick around. Another big threat is people, okay? So we've got people who are going to retire and go out of business, and we have, it's hard to find young people that want to come in this business. And so when we think about, we have people who are retiring who are experienced employees of the building material companies. If you use independent reps, the independent reps are, they're going to start aging out, and they're just going to close. They're not, unless they have a child or something who's going to take it over. And you don't see a lot of new independent rep firms starting. You also, with contractors. Contractors tend to be family businesses. Sure, there's really big people like Turner Construction, but there's a lot more people like Joe's Roofing. And they're going to be going out of business. Now there's probably going to be people coming back in, but still it's a change. And then when you look at dealers, whether it's a small lumber dealer, a kitchen and bath dealer, many of them are just going to, when they get to the age of retirement, they're just going to close. So their way goes a customer, perhaps was an important customer and loyal customer to you. And then another big challenge is new talent. Where's the building industry going to find high caliber new young people? The building industry's done a horrible job of making it seem like an attractive industry to move into. And it also requires a different mindset than we're used to. It's almost like the company needs to feel grateful that they've got this talented person working for them versus the talented person's lucky to have a job with them. Because these people are not interested in just a normal job. So that's another challenge that you need to think about in your company, and there's ways to overcome that. And as you do, once again, you will be, you will outpace your competition. So overall here, from what I've shared with you this hour, I want you to take a fresh look at your customers, step back, and I don't care how much you know about builders or architects or big boxes, distributors or dealers, contractors, step back and take a fresh look at them. Think about it like, are you taking them for granted? Kind of like, every once in a while my wife has to give me a smack up the side of the head to make sure I'm taking a fresh look at our relationship. So, ask yourself, what can you stop doing? Should you go to every trade show you're going to? Should you run these ads? And if you took that money, don't put it in your pocket, but how would you more wisely spend it? What are things through disruption in other areas, improving your customer service and knowledge, where you can tilt the playing field in your favor? Okay. How can you become the knowledge leader? How can you improve customer service? And then the really big one is, how can you just be clear away the online leader in your category? So those are the big takeaways. And once again, we're going to add a lot more depth in the workshop. But and the way I think it summarizes is that, every one of your customers should say, no one cares more about my success than the name of your company. It all can just boil down to being that, that simple. So I want to, remind you, hopefully, that you'll consider coming to my summit on October 26th and 27th for 2 full days, in which we're going to spend a lot of time individually with you and your challenges. The website is at the bottom, seethewizard.com/summit. And here's the special offer from the ShamWow guy. So if you sign up by September 23rd, and this is for the people that didn't register at $1,495, you can use the code ShamWow and save another $200. So where you would spend $1,695, you can now, if you register by September 23rd and use the discount code ShamWow, you will be able to register for $1,495, saving $400 off the total. So, and there's only 12 spots left. So I really hope that you will consider coming. And I also hope that you learn some things from this month's webinar. We'll be doing every month. We're going to be doing one on independent sales reps, one on how to succeed with distributors, one on how to succeed at the builder show this year, and one a month going forward. So does anybody have any questions? And so this will be available on YouTube, and we'll send you all an email. And also any of you, I will be glad to. I'll also send you a link to the slides if you'd just like to, download them for you or your team. Hey, Matt, I appreciate your comment about team lives by the principle it's not about the price. That is so right, and that enables you to hopefully be more profitable than the people who are focused on price, and you can turn around and reinvest that profit in whether it's product innovation or more marketing or however you decide to do it. So if there's no other questions, then I really appreciate you all tuning in. And I also encourage you, if there's a subject you would like a future webinar to be about, to please let me know. And if you'd like me ever to write an article, a blog post about a subject, I will be more than happy to. If I don't know it, I will go out and research it for you. Like right now, I've had so many questions about independent reps that I've been interviewing a lot of independent reps, and I'm about to write a white paper on how build and show companies can get the most out of independent reps that they use. Well, thanks again, and hopefully we'll see you next month. And if any of you upcoming trade shows, if you see me walking around, please come up and say hi. So have a great day, and I hope this will help you be more successful going forward. Take care.